Jonathan Norman from the Major Projects Knowledge Hub, and I'm delighted to be interviewing Elizabeth Harrin around the subject of stakeholder engagement. Elizabeth, I said I was going to be lazy, and I am. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself.
Okay, well, hello everybody. I'm Elizabeth Harrin. I'm freezing cold today, so I've got my fingerless gloves on. And I am a project management author and trainer and mentor, and I provide education and mentoring services to project managers. I'm a fellow of the Association for Project Managers, and stakeholder engagement is one of my favoritist topics to talk and write about. And I've just written this, which I think, Jonathan, you wanted to know a bit more about.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, that was really the reason for the opportunity to kind of chat to you. Is it your sixth book? How many books are you in now?
I think it's 6. These are the ones.
I saw them. Yeah,
nice. Yeah. Just ta-da! Now I'm on video more. I feel like I need to, curate my background.
Yes, yes. And I wondered why stakeholder engagement and why now? Because you've done a lot of other subjects. Is there anything new to say about stakeholder engagement?
Is there anything new? I think what I was trying to do with the book is make it a more popular approach that we talk about stakeholder engagement instead of stakeholder management. Because when I first did my first project management course, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago now, the textbooks were very much talking about stakeholder management, impact and influence grids, and we must manage these people. And for a long time, I've thought that's a very arrogant way of looking at how we have relationships with people, because as a project manager, I have a matrix structure in my team. I can't manage some senior stakeholders, and it's bizarre to think that they would want to be managed and their behavior could be managed by me. And as we're all humans and we all react differently in different situations, the language of managing stakeholders seems to be so archaic now, and yet you look around and still people are using it. So what I wanted to do with this stakeholder engagement book is to try to bring to life what it is, because I believe in stakeholder engagement. I believe that we should be engaging our teams and our people, but it's a big buzzword, isn't it? I mean, who even knows what it means? So I wanted to turn it from something that is just a terminology, a vocabulary phrase, into a how do I actually do engagement? What does it really look like?
Do you think that's a reflection of a wider change in attitude towards projects? So we're moving from a sense of project control, we control the project, to more of a relationship between the project manager and the team and the project? Absolutely.
There's been a slow sea change in the way that project management is perceived by business, through from this perspective of we're the people who tick off the lists and get the work managed and through to completion, through to project management being actually more about project leadership and project steering and shepherding work through the life cycle with all the different complexities that involves to end delivery, and being much more of a strategic partner and being able to challenge much more. And if you elevate project direction to the level of leadership within an organization and align it to strategy, businesses have to do that these days, because otherwise they're spending their time and effort delivering projects that are not aligned to strategy. And then you get to the end of the year and you think, well, why did we do that? Yeah. There's this disconnect between projects and strategy is getting more and more aligned, which is fantastic. And along with that comes this role of us as people who are project professionals having to do more leadership, advising up, strategy work. And it's better. It makes the job more rewarding, more fun. It's better.
Yeah, very good. So if I look at the difference between stakeholder management on one hand and stakeholder engagement on the other, what's the big difference, and where are the benefits?
I think the big difference is in the mental shift between people being resources that you can just manage and tell what to do, through to the people that you work with being your partners in delivery. And I think the benefits are around, people are so time poor these days. People don't have the time and commitment to spend on your projects. So the more you can make it easy for them to work with you by being engaging, by making it simple, you're building good, positive working relationships, you get them to take action. So engagement for me is all about helping people take action on projects. And because the people are the ones delivering the project, and we want the projects just to be done faster and more seamlessly and with less drama, the more we can do that engagement work, the easier it helps us get to the end result.
We talked before I started the recording about the lockdown and experiences of the lockdown. And how do you think COVID-19 has affected the need for stakeholder engagement, but also the tools and techniques that you might use?
I think we have to be far more conscious about it now, because if I think back to some of the engagement techniques that I talked about in the book, or just the things that I used to do, I would make sure that I got in early so I could catch my director before she went into meetings for the day. So I'd turn up to work at 7:30 because I'd know that was the time I could get in front of her. Or I would sit in reception and wait for someone to arrive and talk to them while they were waiting to be escorted to their meeting for third-party guests. And the kind of engagement techniques, and just try and have those informal conversations with people that you can't do now because we have to work remotely.
Yeah.
So I think we need to think about, how do we connect with each other differently? And what does that mean? How can we be creative when you've got to book a Zoom call to have an engaging conversation with somebody?
Yeah, yeah. If I put you on the spot, are there a couple of techniques that you kind of have developed that you think actually this is particularly useful if you're looking to make that shift from engagement and not from the real world to the virtual world?
I think that treating people as individuals, I know that sounds really basic, but I think often we lump stakeholders together and say, oh, the marketing team, that's all one big group. But actually it's made up of 5 or 6 different personalities. And if we can tailor communications to each individual, they're more likely to get through the first time, be understood and be acted on. So I wod say that tailoring is something that's quite easy to do. It's quite time consuming, but if you put your effort into the right stakeholders, then that can really help, because you're trying to build personal relationships with people. And I think one of the things that you used to be able to do that's harder now to do as we're working remotely is those ad hoc relationships where you aren't working currently with that person. You've got no particular reason to have them in your network, but you might need to work with them next year, or you worked with them on a project last year, to try to keep those relationships going. Just things like, I note down when people's birthdays are, when their kids' birthdays are. So I have a sort of notebook of useful stakeholder facts. So I can create, that sounds like I'm stalking them, but I don't mean it to be like that. But just create moments where you can say, oh, last time we spoke, you were interested in what the MOD was doing, and I read this really interesting article. So I just thought I'd forward it to you. So we have to be far more intentional now with trying to keep the network that we have, that is maybe slightly 1 person, 2 people removed from our current core project team.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think that's a really good point. And you make the point about being intentional and perhaps being intelligent. We can no longer automate these processes. I mean, given the example that you gave, it might come across as slightly bizarre if you were contacting people. It has to be with genuine
authentic
thought and authentic. And as you say, that means that you're thinking about the person that you're communicating with. Yeah, good. So imagine I'm running a project and everything seems to be going fine. I've got my nice green right across the board in terms of...
Lucky you.
Yeah, yeah. What signs should I perhaps be looking for that maybe everything is not as rosy as I think, particularly in terms of in engagement with either with other members of the team or with stakeholders outside of the organization?
I think it's everything that is the flip side to those benefits. So it's lack of commitment, really. I would be looking for people who say they're coming to meetings and then they don't show up, or they send a deputy who doesn't actually have the decision-making authority, or they say they complete their actions but they run out of time, or they don't get around to doing it. And also, I think I would look for a sign that the project is not important to them, or there's a lack of awareness about how important the project is. And I know most of your members will be working on crucial, high value, strategically important projects, but not all projects are like that. So within the organisation, there will be a hierarchy of projects. And if you happen to be working on a lower down a project that doesn't command the same attention as some of the others in your organisation, then knowing that is important, because it helps you position your communications and manage expectations.
Yes, yeah. And where would you place stakeholder engagement in relation to other tasks, other roles within the project? I mean, whether that's benefits management or risk management, how do you see it relating to those other elements?
That's a really interesting question, because I expect if you asked somebody who was really passionate and written books about risk, they'd probably say, oh, risk is most important. I think I live by the truism that 80% of project management is communication, and communication extends into the conversations and relationships that we build with people. So I would say it's what I spend most of my day doing. I think the bigger the project, the more you have to balance that with the obvious requirements of making sure that you are applying enough project control. So there needs to be a bit of balance. But if we come back to the fundamentals of, do we want these people to actually do work? Yes, we do. So how are we going to be easy to do business with? How are we going to be friendly and authentic and professional and encourage them to contribute in the best possible way? Then I think the people stuff has to be up there as one of the most important things that we do.
Yeah, well, that's a very good pertinent message at the moment. We're doing got the Major Project Association conference over this month, and emotional intelligence is the theme. So we're very much focusing on people. Good. Well, thank you so much for those thoughts and your time, and for sharing details of the book with us.
No, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.